He left the throne behind and rode out of the kingdom, willing to risk everything to save his sister. But he fell into an ambush, was poisoned, and put up for sale like a man without worth. She had only one coin, and the courage not to look away. What neither of them knew was that in that moment, a healer would save a king and change the fate of an entire kingdom. "I'll buy him." The coin hit the stone ground before Cecily had time to think about what she was doing. The metallic sound rang out louder than it should have, slicing through the laughter in the square. The man kneeling at the center of the circle did not move. A thick burlap sack still covered his head, tightly tied behind his neck. His hands were bound behind his back. "Are you sure?" the merchant asked with a half-smile, like someone watching another person make an expensive mistake. He kicked the prisoner, who swayed but did not fall. "This one won't last until tomorrow. He's more dead than alive. If you want a slave worth having, I've got others." Cecily swallowed hard. That was the last coin she had. But when she looked at the prisoner again, she saw what no one else seemed to notice. Fever, restrained trembling, shallow breathing. Someone on the verge of dying right in front of her. And she was not going to stand by and watch. "One coin was the price you named," she replied, her voice firmer than someone trembling inside had any right to sound. "I'll pay." There was a murmur, a few laughs. Someone said she must be crazy. Another said it would only bring trouble. The merchant shrugged and spat on the ground. "Your problem, but I don't take returns on dead merchandise." He gestured, and one of the men cut the ropes with open disdain. The prisoner's body immediately gave way. He fell onto his side, hitting the ground hard. Cecily stepped forward instinctively. She knelt beside him, gripping his arm. His skin burned with fever beneath her fingers. Poison. Without a doubt. "Come on," she said quietly, trying to help him up. "Before someone changes their mind." The man tried. He leaned on her with a weight that nearly knocked her over, but he managed to stand. His legs shook. His muscles refused to obey properly. Still, he did not fall again. As they started to move away, a chill ran down Cecily's spine. From the risk, from the belated awareness of what she had just done. The square was still crowded, the stairs still heavy. This could go wrong in so many ways. What have I just done? The walk to the cabin felt endless. 1 league dragged on as if it were 30. He managed most of the way leaning on her, but his body gave out before the end. He passed out, too heavy to ignore. Cecily had to drag him the last few yards, using every bit of strength she had left. When she finally shoved open the cabin door and let him collapse onto the wooden floor, she was sweating, exhausted, and starting to seriously question her own judgment. She locked the door, lit the hearth, fetched water, and then, finally, she knelt beside him and got to work. First, she cut the rope still binding his wrists. The skin beneath was raw, marked by hours of pressure. He did not react to her touch. He was unconscious now, his body finally giving in to what it had been fighting to hide. Cecily took a deep breath and pulled the sack off his head. The fabric came away stuck, soaked with sweat. And when his face was revealed, Cecily stopped breathing. He was unexpected. A strong jaw shadowed by rough stubble. Blonde hair fell in disarray over his damp forehead, a few strands caught in braids that had come undone. His lips were cracked, his skin far too pale. But it was his features that caught her off guard. This was not the face of an ordinary man. "Who are you?" The question would have to wait. Because when Cecily leaned closer to examine him, she caught the scent. Aconite. Bitter. Unmistakable. And judging by the sharp smell still clinging to the burlap sack, he had been forced to breathe it in for hours. Bastards. Aconite did not kill quickly. It killed slowly. It weakened first, disoriented, suppressed strength and perception. It was used by people who knew exactly what they were doing, Cecily worked fast, her hands steady with the confidence of someone who had learned every movement in childhood. Her mother had been a healer, the best the Wolf Village had ever known. She had taught Cecily from an early age, every herb, every dosage, every sign the body gave when fighting death. She took valerian root, dandelion leaves, willow bark. She could not remove the poison all at once. That would be fatal. His body needed to purge it gradually, with help. Minimal doses, carefully controlled. She prepared the first tincture, lifted his head gently, and forced the liquid between his lips. He choked, coughed, but swallowed. Even unconscious, his body knew how to survive. Cecily dragged him closer to the hearth, covered him with the only blanket she had, then sat down with her back against the wall, watching and waiting. The fever came quickly. Cecily had known it would. Aconite always brought fever. He began to delirium around midnight. He shifted restlessly, murmuring words she could not fully understand. Names, orders, fragments of a burden that went far beyond that cabin. Sophia, forgive me. I couldn't. The name slipped out again and again, always urgent, always edged with barely restrained desperation. Who is Sophia? A wife? A daughter? A betrothed? Cecily did not know, but the way he spoke the name told her she mattered. Someone important. Someone he carried guilt for. She replaced the cool cloth on his forehead, administered another dose of antidote, and went back to watching. The night dragged on. The fever rose and fell in waves. He screamed once, a guttural sound that made Cecily jump, but then he fell silent again. And then, around the 3rd hour before dawn, his body reacted differently. His body began to shake. Not as before, with fever, but with violent, uncontrolled spasms. Muscles contracted beneath the skin, rippling unnaturally. His hands curled into claws, fingers twisting. Cecily sprang to her feet, her heart racing. What? Then she saw it. His eyes flew open, but they were not a man's eyes. They were golden, bright, wild, wolf. He was trying to shift. His body arched, his back lifting off the floor. A torn sound ripped from his throat. A broken groan laced with restrained growls. Bones began to crack, seeking another shape. But they could not complete it. The poison was still in his blood, blocking it, preventing it. Cecily had grown up in a wolf village. She had seen her father transform dozens of times. She had seen the beauty, the fluidity, the natural grace of the process. But this was different. This was pure pain. A body fighting itself, fighting a transformation it could not complete. Cecily grabbed more tincture, this time with gentian root, which her mother used to stabilize troubled transformations. She knelt beside him, even as his body convulsed, even as bones cracked in the wrong ways. "Look at me," she ordered, her voice coming out steadier than she expected. "Look at me and breathe." The golden eyes blinked, struggling to focus. "You can't transform right now," she continued, brushing his forehead, holding him firmly. "The poison won't let you, so stop fighting, let your body rest." She did not know if he could hear her. She did not know if her words could reach through the pain and confusion, but she kept talking, keeping her voice low, even, constant. "You're safe. I won't hurt you. And you're not going to die. But you need to stop. You need to let the wolf rest." She lifted his head carefully and forced the tincture between his lips. "Drink. Now." He obeyed. Even lost in agony, even fighting his own body, he trusted her. The transformation aborted violently. Bones snapped back into place with dry, sickening sounds that made Cecily shudder. His eyes flickered. Gold, pale blue, before finally settling. And then he collapsed completely into unconsciousness. Cecily stayed there, sitting beside him, her hand still resting on his forehead, feeling the fever finally begin to break. Kaelin woke with the sensation that he had been torn apart and put back together again. Every muscle ached. His bones throbbed as if they had been broken and hastily healed. His head felt heavy, and there were fragmented memories. He had tried to surface, tried to take control, tried to heal through transformation. But the aconite had blocked everything. The memories came like an impact, not in order, in fragments. A whirlwind that overlapped the pain in his body. The throne of black stone, the crown set aside, the council chamber taut with tension. He was Kaelin Dravant, Alpha King of Dravant. He had ruled alone since his parents' death. No wife, no political alliances, only the kingdom and Sophia, his sister, the only family he had left. Her disappearance had shattered everything. Sophia had not been taken at random. She was the heir, the most valuable piece on the board. It was not just kidnapping, it was power engineering. With no king and no heir, the council would implode, and someone would step in as a savior, signing agreements, opening borders, taking the throne without ever lifting a sword. And the disappearances along the borders, they were not just cruelty. They were business and strategy. Some were sold. Others were turned into forced labor with silver collars. And the most valuable ones, heirs, strong youths, important names, became leverage for blackmail. Someone was financing this with far too much silver for it to be coincidence. And someone from the lupine world was opening far too many doors for it to be ignorance. Then came the letter. If you want the truth about who took your sister, come alone. It was a trap. He had known it the moment he read it. But he went anyway. He left the kingdom in the hands of Ryden, his beta, the only one he trusted enough to keep the throne standing if he did not return. There was no announcement, no escort. Just a king leaving at night like an ordinary man. He never reached the meeting. He was surrounded. Silver. Blades. Poison. The aconite entered through his lungs, burning from the inside, stealing strength, sight, instinct. A sack thrown over his head to hide his face, to erase the king, to turn him into nothing. Then darkness. The auction. The voices. The contempt. And then there was something else. Another memory. Green eyes. A steady voice. A hand on his forehead. You're safe. He opened his eyes slowly, blinking against the light coming through the window. A wooden ceiling, clay walls, the smell of herbs and hearth smoke. And her. Seated on a wooden chair pulled close to him, sleeping in a posture that looked uncomfortable. Red hair fell across her face, loose strands escaping a loosened braid. Dark circles lay beneath her eyes, as if she had not slept properly in days. Her scent reached him. It was not just herbs and smoke. It was deeper, personal, unique. Like earth after rain, mixed with a faint sweetness he could not identify. And the instant that aroma wrapped around him completely, the wolf inside him, still weak, still restrained by the residue of aconite, stirred. Mate. The recognition was instantaneous. Kaelin felt as if something had clicked into place inside his chest. As if a part of him that had always been empty had suddenly been filled. It was not just attraction. Not just desire. It was necessity. As though every cell in his body recognized that woman as his. No. Not now. Not like this. He was still weak. Poisoned. Kaelin could not allow this to distract him. But how could he ignore it? How could he ignore it when every fiber of his being screamed that she was his? When the wolf inside him wanted to mark her, protect her, never let her out of reach. Control. You learned control. Kaelin drew a deep breath, forcing the wolf back. burying the recognition deep enough to function, to think beyond the bond. Then she stirred. Green eyes opened slowly, taking a moment to focus. When they met his, something shifted across her expression. Relief, and a gentle confusion she herself seemed not to understand. "You're awake," she said, her voice rough with sleep. She rubbed her face, brushing away exhaustion. "How do you feel?" "Like I fought an entire pack," Kalen admitted, trying to sit up. His body protested but obeyed, poorly. "And lost. The poison is still in your system. But the worst has passed." Cecily stood, fetched water, and brought it to him. "Another day, maybe 2, and you'll be well enough to walk without collapsing." Kalen took the cup. When his fingers brushed hers, he felt it. The spark, the recognition. "You saw," Kalen said after drinking half the water. It was not a question. "Last night, the transformation. I did. And you stayed." Cecily crossed her arms, the gesture defensive. "I grew up in a wolf village. My father was a wolf. My mother was a healer. And you were trapped in the transformation because of the aconite." Her green eyes narrowed. "Whoever did this to you knew exactly what they were doing." "Yes, they did." Silence lingered for a moment. Then Cecily returned to the chair. "During the delirium, you said a name. Sophia. Several times." Kalen felt his chest tighten. "My sister. You're looking for her." It was not a question. But Kalen nodded anyway. "She was taken. I received a letter saying that if I wanted answers, I had to go alone. I went. It was a trap. They caught me, poisoned me. And now..." He closed his eyes, guilt weighing like lead. "Now she's out there, alone, and I'm here. Weak. Useless." "You're not useless," Cecily said firmly. "You're alive, and as long as you're alive, you can find her." Kalen opened his eyes and met hers. "How?" Cecily hesitated. Then she sighed. "Kidnappings aren't new. In the village where I grew up, they started happening too. People vanishing, young ones, children, isolated wolves. The village elders began to look into it. They tried to track, to investigate. My father was involved. He believed there was an organization, planned routes." Her voice dropped. "They never found anything solid. The trails always vanished, as if someone was always one step ahead. And then my father disappeared too. And when that happened, when the search for him intensified, someone ambushed the village, killed 3 of the elders. The message was clear: stop looking or more will die. So they stopped. And she looked away. I left, because staying there, watching everyone pretend nothing had happened, was worse than being alone." Kalen listened to every word, and he understood. The pain, the anger, the helplessness of seeing injustice and being unable to stop it. "But you kept paying attention," he said. "Yes." Cecily met his gaze again. "I listen. I observe. Merchants who show up on the same moons. Men who buy things that should not be sold. Trails my father showed me before he disappeared. If your sister was taken, it wasn't random. It was planned. And whoever plans like that has structure. Routes. People protecting them. Hope." Kalen felt hope for the first time in days. "You know where to start looking?" "Maybe. I know a few places, a few names." She leaned forward. "But it will be dangerous. Whoever is behind this has killed to keep it secret. And they will kill again." Kalen nodded. He knew that better than anyone. Then Cecily asked the question he had been dreading. "What's your name?" Kalen did not answer. Revealing who he was not an option. Not now. The silence stretched between them. Cecily frowned slightly, not in accusation, but in acceptance. "My name is Cecily." Kalen remained silent, unsure what to say, thinking, "So, that's your name." She stood slowly, as if she had already made a decision. "I'm going to help you." The wolf inside him reacted before reason. "No." The word came out sharp, automatic. She blinked, surprised. "No? You can't," Kaelin insisted, trying to stand and failing. Frustration burned in his throat. "It's too dangerous. You said it yourself. They kill to keep secrets. And if something happens to you because of me, if she gets hurt because of me, I won't survive." The thought came without warning, brutal in its honesty. She was his mate, even if she did not know, even if he could not say it. And the idea of her putting herself in danger, being hurt, being killed for helping him was unbearable. "You don't know me," Kaelin went on, desperate. "You owe me nothing. You saved my life, and I'm grateful. But this is different. I can't let you risk yourself like this." Cecily stared at him for a long moment. Then she crossed her arms. "You don't decide for me," she said, steel in her voice. "I choose, and I choose to help. Cecily, my father was taken by these people," she continued, not letting him finish. "A long time ago. Since then, I've lived with unanswered questions, with an anger that never found direction. You're offering me the chance to finally act, to maybe find answers. Do you really think I'm going to let that pass? This isn't about answers." Kaelin shot back, his voice harsher. "It's about survival. And you could die. I could." She shrugged, but her green eyes remained steady. "Everyone dies one day. At least this way I die doing something that matters." "Don't talk like that." "Why? It's true." Kaelin clenched his fists, frustration tangled with fear. How could he explain? How could he say that the idea of losing her was worse than death itself? So he tried another approach. "You have a life here," he said more calmly. "Your cabin, your work as a healer, people who depend on you. Throwing all that away for a stranger you bought for 1 coin. I choose to throw it away," Cecily cut in, stepping closer. "Don't you understand? This cabin, this work, this solitary life, it isn't living. It's surviving. And I'm tired of just surviving." Her green eyes shone now, not with tears, with determination. "So you can accept my help, and we'll have a better chance of finding your sister," she continued. "Or you can refuse, and I'll look on my own anyway. Your choice." Kaelin looked at her, at the stubbornness in her lifted chin, at the resolve radiating from every gesture, and he knew he had lost, because she was stubborn and brave, and she was not going to back down. And even if it tore him apart to let her take this risk, even if every instinct screamed to lock her here and go alone, Kaelin knew the truth. He needed her. The roots she knew, the names she had heard, the knowledge she carried. "All right," he said at last, his voice heavy, "but on conditions." Cecily arched an eyebrow. "What conditions?" "You listen to me when I say it's too dangerous," Kaelin began. "You don't take unnecessary risks, and if at any point I tell you to run, you run. No questions, no looking back. And you?" she countered. "Do you run too? If it's necessary to keep you alive, yes." Something crossed her face. Surprise, and an unexpected softness, as if she were not used to someone putting her life above their own. "Deal," she said finally. "But it goes both ways. You don't do anything stupid either." Kaelin almost smiled. "Stupid like going alone into an obvious trap?" "Exactly like that." He held out his hand. "Deal?" Cecily looked at the offered hand, then took it. "Deal," she said, her voice a little less firm than before. "But first you rest. We're not going anywhere with you barely able to stand." "How many days?" 2, Maybe 3. 1. 2, she repeated, inflexible. No arguing. You're weak, poisoned, and your body needs time. Kaylin wanted to argue. Sophia did not have time, but when he tried to stand again, and his body flatly refused to cooperate, he knew she was right. 2 days, he agreed reluctantly, but not a minute more. 2 days, Cecily confirmed. She nodded, then turned toward the shelf of herbs. Kaylin lay back, watching her as she worked, hair the color of fire catching the light, steady hands mixing herbs, a presence that filled the entire cabin. And as he watched her, Kaylin made a silent promise. He would find Sophia. He would destroy whoever had taken her, and he would keep Cecily safe. 2 days passed, and morning arrived wrapped in dense fog. Cecily woke before dawn and found Kaylin already on his feet, his back to her, testing his muscles with slow movements. Shirtless. Cecily froze halfway through sitting up, the air caught in her lungs. The dim light from the window traced every line of his broad shoulders, every muscle in his back tightening as he stretched his arms. Scars mapped stories across his skin, some thin, others deeper. Marks of battles, of survival. Blonde hair spilled over his shoulders in a disordered cascade, a few strands caught in half-undone braids. Stop staring. But it was impossible not to look. Kaylin turned, and his gaze met hers immediately, as if he knew he was being watched. His pale blue eyes glinted with something Cecily could not quite identify. Amusement? Satisfaction? "Good morning," he said, his voice still rough with sleep. Cecily looked away too quickly, feeling heat rise up her neck. "Good morning." Your shirt..." She kept her eyes fixed on the wall, the window, anywhere that was not him. "Oh, right. Makes sense." Kaylin took a step closer. "Did I make you uncomfortable?" "No, it's not." Cecily finally looked at him, forcing herself to keep her eyes on his face. Only his face. "I just didn't expect it." He tilted his head, studying her with that unsettling intensity. "I can put the shirt on if you prefer." "No need. I mean..." She stood up too fast, nearly tripping over the blanket. "We should leave soon. Greymore is 2 leagues north." Kaylin said nothing, but there was a small smile playing at his lips as he picked up the shirt and pulled it on. And Cecily pretended not to notice how the fabric clung to his skin, outlining every contour. Focus. Focus on the mission. They set out as the sun began to break through the fog. The path was narrow, lined with ancient trees whose branches interlaced overhead like a green ceiling. Cecily led the way, moving naturally among roots and stones. Kaylin followed, and she felt the weight of his gaze on her back. "You know these trails well," he commented. "I've used them for years. Safe, forgotten. No one watches them." They walked in silence for a while. The forest murmured around them. Wind, leaves, birds. Then Kaylin spoke. "This morning..." Cecily did not look back. "You don't need to talk about that. You were flustered." "I was not..." "You were." There was amusement in his voice now. "And it was interesting to watch." Cecily stopped, turning on him sharply. "Are you enjoying this?" Kaylin stopped as well, so close she had to lift her chin to look at him. "Maybe a little." "You're impossible." His pale blue eyes gleamed. "You unsettle me too, you know." Cecily blinked. "Me?" "Yes. The way you move. The way you speak. The way you look at me sometimes." He took a step closer. "Maybe because you're an enigma. Or maybe," his voice dropped lower, "you feel the same thing I do, and you don't know what to do with it." Cecily opened her mouth, closed it. There was no safe answer to that. So she turned and kept walking, and tried to ignore the low laugh behind her. The road was long. Greymore appeared in the middle of the afternoon. Small, functional, forgotten. Cecily led Kaylin through narrow alleys to a shop with dirty windows and a faded sign. Fabrics. "Stay close to me," she instructed. "And let me lead." They went inside. The interior smelled of mildew and old cloth. A thin man with graying hair looked up. His cautious expression shifted to relief when he saw Cecily. "It's been a while," Gareth said. "I need information." His small eyes slid to Kaylin, assessing. "And him?" "He's with me. He looks important." Cecily placed 2 vials on the counter. "New tincture, for headaches, stronger than the last one." Gareth picked up the vials, examined them against the light, then nodded. "What do you want to know?" "Young people disappearing, children, something organized." Gareth went pale instantly. "Dangerous talk," he murmured, barely moving his lips. "There are rumors of a partnership, human and wolf. And it's not just people vanishing. It's a scheme. Roots." He glanced quickly toward the door, as if expecting footsteps. "Some they sell. Some end up in labor with silver collars until they break. And the valuable ones," he swallowed, "those they keep for blackmail, to lure important people into traps." Cecily felt her stomach sink. "And who funds this?" she asked. Gareth swallowed hard. "Silver, a lot of silver, and an alpha who opens paths no one should cross." Kaylin stepped forward, his voice low. "Names." Gareth recoiled instinctively. There was authority in Kaylin's voice, weight that could not be hidden. "Eamon Richter, hunter, silver merchant." He swallowed again. "And Ronan Crow, border alpha." The second name struck Kaylin like a physical blow. Ronan Crow, respected, strong, traitor. Ronan profited twice, silver in hand, and a rival kingdom on its knees when the throne was left without heirs. Where do they meet? Scattered outposts, but the main one is to the north, borderlands, a stable with a red horseshoe on the door. Exact location. Gareth hesitated. Cecily placed another vial on the counter. For stomach pain. Last offer. The merchant grabbed all 3 vials quickly. 8 leagues north of Blackwater. But don't go during the day, and don't go unprepared. Outside, Kaylin gently caught her arm. Blackwater. How long to get there? 2 days on foot. We leave now. No. Cecily shook her head. We need supplies, and you're still recovering. We leave at dawn. He was about to protest, but she continued. Your sister needs you whole, not exhausted. Kaylin clenched his jaw, then nodded. Where do we sleep? There's an inn. Discreet. The inn sat on the edge of the village. Cecily negotiated with the owner, a bored man who barely looked at them. I need 1 room and 2 meals, she said, placing 2 vials on the counter. Headache tincture, and this one for indigestion, worth more than coins. The man examined the vials, tested the scent of one, then nodded. 2nd floor, last door, food at nightfall. He handed her a key. The room was small, 1 narrow bed, 1 chair, a broken window. Cecily dropped her bag on the floor. There was only 1 room available. I'll sleep on the chair. No. Kaylin closed the door behind them. You sleep on the bed. I'll take the floor. You're still recovering. Cecily. He turned. He was close, too close. I'm not letting you sleep badly while I'm comfortable. No arguing. She stared at him. So close she could see the tiny golden flecks in his blue eyes. She could feel the heat of his body. You're impossible. Silence. Tense. The air between them felt charged. Then Cecily sighed. We share the bed. It's big enough, and neither of us will sleep arguing about this. Kaylin went still. Cecily. We're adults. She crossed her arms, defensive. We can share space without it meaning anything. but it does. To me, it means everything. Kaylin nodded slowly. All right, we share. The tension in the room was almost tangible. Kaylin sat in the only chair, watching as Cecily organized herbs in her bag. Efficient movements, steady hands. You learned all this from your mother? He asked. Cecily did not look at him. Yes, she taught me from a young age. Every plant, every dosage. She paused. She died, but the knowledge stayed. I'm sorry. But Kaylin heard the weight in her voice. Time did not erase certain losses. Silence for a moment. Then Cecily set the herbs aside and turned to face him. And you? Is Sophia your only family? Yes. My parents died when I was young. She's all I have left. That's why you risked everything. Yes. Cecily stepped closer, stopping in front of him. We'll find her. Kaylin lifted his gaze. Cecily was too close now. Red hair loose over her shoulders, green eyes steady, attentive, not surrendered, not confused. Present. You're so certain, he said. I am, she replied without hesitation. Because you won't stop until you find your sister, and I won't let you do it alone. Something tightened in Kaylin's chest. My mate. The weight of that truth was no longer bearable. He drew a deep breath, slowly, like someone preparing to cross a point of no return. Cecily. His voice came out low, laden with restrained tension. There's something I can't hide anymore. She frowned slightly, sensing the shift in the air. Since the night I woke up in that cabin, he continued, my wolf recognized you. It wasn't choice. It wasn't desire. It was instinct. Cecily's heart began to race, not from understanding, but from expectation. You are my mate, he said at last. The words fell between them like an ancient vow. The moon put you in my path. For an instant, the world seemed suspended. That doesn't make sense, Cecily murmured. I'm not a wolf. For the bond, that doesn't matter, he replied, with a calm filled with reverence. I fought it from the beginning, because putting you in danger would be unforgivable. But pretending I don't feel this, it's destroying me. Cecily's chest constricted sharply, as if something had been torn from the silence inside her. An intense heat surged through her body, spreading across her skin, her belly, her bones. She gasped for air. She brought a hand to her chest, breathing hard. What is this? He stood slowly and cupped her face with absolute care, as if afraid he might break her. It's the bond awakening, he said softly. I felt it from the beginning. You're feeling it now. Her green eyes met his, and something changed. The world around them seemed to disappear. Unable to bear the weight of the newly revealed truth, Kaylin pulled her close and kissed her. It was inevitable. The moment their lips touched, the sensation in Cecily intensified, almost painful, as if her entire body recognized that truth before her mind could catch up. She clung to him not by choice, but by necessity, as if being apart were impossible. When they pulled away, it was only for lack of air. Foreheads still touching, breaths uneven, the silence heavy with what had been awakened between them. This is madness, Cecily murmured, her voice too soft to sound like denial. Her heart pounded, not because of the kiss itself, but because of the dizzying sensation of having been chosen. Maybe, Kaylin replied, not kissing her again, holding himself back by force. But I couldn't stop. Neither could I, she admitted, still breathless. They stayed like that for a moment, too close, too aware, until a knock on the door shattered the moment. Both stepped back quickly. Cecily smoothed her clothes in an automatic gesture. Kaylin ran a hand through his hair, trying to reclaim some measure of control. Food, announced the innkeeper's rough voice from outside. Cecily opened the door. The man set down a tray with bread, cheese, and roasted meat without even looking inside the room. When the door closed, the silence returned. Different now. Charged. "Let's eat," Cecily said, trying to sound normal. "Yes," Kaylin replied. They ate in silence, exchanging glances that said more than words. At bedtime, Cecily blew out the candle and lay down on the side near the wall. Kaylin took the other side of the bed, keeping a distance that felt artificial. The bed was narrow, and after what had happened, the distance felt non-existent. "What's your name?" she asked, almost in a whisper. Only then did she realize how strange it was. She had kissed that man, shared days with him, and still did not even know his name. Kaylin thought about answering, hesitated for a moment, and then finally said, "Kaylin." She repeated the name in her mind. Kaylin. Cecily reached out in the dark, finding his hand. Kaylin laced his fingers with hers and turned onto his side, drawing her just close enough that she rested against his chest. It was not impulse. It was protection. Dawn came cold and clear. Cecily woke wrapped in warmth, a heavy arm around her waist and Kaylin's face buried in her hair. For a moment, she simply lay there, feeling. His breath against the back of her neck. The solid weight of his body pressed to her back. Kaylin shifted, pulling her tighter against him. "Good morning," came his rough voice. "Good morning." Silence, tense, loaded. Then Kaylin exhaled and moved away. "We should go." The journey was long and exhausting. Cecily noticed that Kaylin, despite the initial pain, improved visibly with every passing hour. Cuts that should have taken days to heal were already beginning to close. "Wolf metabolism," he explained when she remarked on it. "Soon I'll be fully healed. But I'm already strong enough." They stopped only a few times, just what was necessary. All the while the tension grew, the closeness of their goal weighed like stone. On the first night, they camped in tight, tense silence. Kaylin held her hand while the fire crackled. "When all of this is over," he said quietly, "come with me." Cecily looked at him, at the blue eyes shining in the firelight. "Where?" Kaylin hesitated, then looked away. "Where I have to return. With Sophia. There are responsibilities I left behind. Things I need to set right. You still can't tell me. No. But when I can, when everything is settled, I'll tell you everything. I promise." Cecily nodded, unable to speak. And when they slept, they did so wrapped around each other. Safe. Together. On the second day, the village of Blackwater appeared on the horizon. They skirted it in silence, avoiding curious eyes. Then, as the sun began to set, they saw it. A stable, isolated, with a red horseshoe painted on the door. Cecily and Kaylin crouched behind dense shrubs, watching. 3 guards outside, probably more inside, all armed. The stable door opened. A tall man stepped out, lean, dark hair, expensive clothes. Even from a distance, arrogance sat in his posture. "Eamon Richter," Kaylin murmured, contained hatred in his voice. Behind him came another man. Bigger, stronger. An unmistakable alpha presence. "Ronan Crow." Then the door opened again. Children. Guards led them out, small, terrified, chained by the wrists like animals, and among them, a girl. Blonde hair falling in messy waves, huge blue eyes and a face far too pale. She could not have been more than 12, thin, frightened, but with her chin lifted, stubborn even in chains. They kept her mixed in with the other children on purpose. No noble clothes, no special treatment. If anyone recognized her, the entire kingdom would come. So they did the worst thing. They hid the air among the invisible. Kaylin went rigid beside Cecily, completely still, as if he had turned to stone. Then Cecily heard it. A low sound, guttural. from his throat. A growl. She looked at him and saw it. His eyes flickered between blue and gold. Between man and wolf. He's going to attack, now, and he'll die. Cecily gripped his arm, hard, with both hands. No, Kaylin, no. He didn't answer. He just kept staring at Sophia. Kaylin, look at me. He didn't. Cecily caught his face, forcing him to turn his eyes away. Look. At me. His eyes met hers. Gold. Wild. Desperate. She's chained. My sister is chained. I know. I saw. Cecily kept her hands steady. But if you attack now, alone, with guards everywhere, you'll die. And then who saves her? I can't. You can, and you will, but with wisdom, not with desperation. Kaylin shut his eyes, breathed in deeply. Once, twice, 3 times. When he opened them again, they were still gold, but more controlled. We wait for night, Cecily said. We wait for them to lower their guard. Then we go in, together, and we bring her back, alive. Kaylin nodded, slow, painful. Night fell like a black cloak, no moon, only distant cold stars. Torches were lit around the stable. The guards changed shifts. 2 remained outside. Now, Kaylin whispered. They moved in silence. The first guard never had a chance. Kaylin moved like a shadow. Fast. Lethal. He took the man by the neck and snapped it in one clean motion. The body hit the ground with a dull thud. The second guard turned at the sound, eyes wide. He opened his mouth to shout, and Cecily moved. Her dagger sliced through the air, went in through the throat, came out the other side. The man fell. Silent. Dead. Cecily stared at her own hands, shaking, slick with blood. I killed someone. I just killed someone. Kaylin held her face. Look at me. Don't look at him. Look at me. She met his eyes. You did what you had to do, to save Sophia, to survive. Cecily nodded, forcing herself to believe it. And they entered the stable. Inside it smelled of old straw, sweat, and fear. There were cages, makeshift, children inside them, terrified, too silent. And at the back, guards, throwing dice, drinking, laughing. Kaylin moved. The first guard died before he realized he was under attack. The second tried to shout. Kaylin broke his jaw before any sound could escape. The third grabbed a blade and struck. Cecily saw the knife sink into Kaylin's shoulder, saw the blood, saw him stagger. No. She moved without thinking, threw herself between Kaylin and the next attack. Her dagger found the guard's ribs. Once, twice, 3 times, until he stopped moving. Cecily, Kaylin yanked her back. I told you to stay. And I told you we were doing this together. Then a voice cut through the chaos. Stop. Everyone froze. Ronan Crow stood in the center of the stable, tall, imposing, with Sophia in front of him and a knife at her throat. One move, he said, his voice calm, controlled, and she dies. Kaylin went completely still. Blood ran down his shoulder, but his eyes were locked on his sister. Sophia looked at him, tears sliding down her face, but not from fear, from relief. Kaylin, she whispered. It's all right, he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. It's all right. I came to get you. Ronan laughed, low, bitter. You came to get her? Alone? Injured? He sneered. You're even more stupid than I thought. Kaylin didn't answer. He only watched, studied. Ronan's stance, the way he held Sophia, the angle of the blade, looking for weakness. Then Ronan truly looked at Kaylin. His eyes swept over Kaylin's face. Ronan started laughing, loud and hysterical. Well, 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 he shouted, his voice echoing through the stable. Do you all know who's here tonight? Look at the illustrious guest who came to visit us, who came to play hero on my turf. He looked around at the dead guards, at Eamon who had appeared at the door shouting, at Cecily standing beside Kaelin. Then he roared, triumphant, "The Alpha King of Dravant himself!" King. The word hit the stable like thunder. Alpha King. Cecily felt the floor vanish beneath her feet. King? She turned to Kaelin and saw the truth in his eyes. Confirmation, guilt, fear. He is a king. A king. Everything clicked at once, like puzzle pieces snapping together with violent force. His posture, the way he spoke, polite, but with natural command. The authority in his voice she had chalked up to military training. The fact that he had a 12-year-old sister valuable enough to be stolen as a bargaining chip. An heir. Because she is a princess. And he is a king. Cecily's hands trembled, not from fear, from pure shock. I saved a king, bought a king for 1 coin, slept in a king's arms, kissed a... Pathetic, isn't it? Ronan continued, his laughter now cruel. The great Alpha King. Alone. Injured. Bleeding like anyone else. And you still think you can challenge me? Kaelin said nothing. He kept his eyes on Sophia, but Cecily saw it. The tension in his shoulders, the way his muscles coiled, the preparation. He's going to attack. Then Ronan made a mistake. He looked at Cecily. Really looked at her. And you brought company. He laughed. What is she? A lover? Someone you picked up on the road to... Careful, Kaelin said, voice low. Dangerous. What you say about her? Ronan blinked, surprised by the tone. And Cecily took advantage. She stepped forward, the dagger still in her hand, coated in blood. I'm someone who killed 3 of your men tonight, she said firmly. And I'll kill you too if you press that blade any closer to her throat. Ronan stared at her, as if only now he truly saw her. And half a second of distraction was enough. Kaelin exploded into motion. He crossed the distance before Ronan could react, wrenched Sophia from his arms with brutal force, turned, shoved the girl toward Cecily. Take her! Get out of here! Cecily caught Sophia. The girl clung to her, shaking violently. Then Ronan attacked, a long blade in his hand, rage in his eyes, the strength of a betrayed alpha. Kaelin dodged, but not fast enough. The blade cut deep into his chest. Blood burst out, and something inside Kaelin snapped. Cecily saw it. His eyes changed first, pale blue turning into pure gold, bright, incandescent. Then his body. It was majestic. Bones cracked, but they didn't break. They simply rearranged, grew, shifted shape with purpose. Skin tore, fur surged through, gold as ripe wheat under the sun, thick, magnificent. Hands became massive paws, fingers turned to black claws. Deadly. His face lengthened, teeth grew. Fangs the length of knives. And where there had been a man, a king, there was now a wolf, enormous, bigger than any wolf Cecily had ever seen, golden fur gleaming in the torchlight like precious metal, golden eyes burning with human intelligence and animal wrath, muscles rolling beneath the skin with every breath. Cecily couldn't breathe, couldn't move. She only stared, feeling, fear. Yes, there was fear, even terror, because that creature could kill her with a single bite, but also awe. Respect, and something deeper, something that recognized that wolf not as a monster, but as hers, mine. The thought came without permission, irrational, but true. Ronan stumbled back, eyes wide with pure terror. No, he whispered. No, you can't. But Kaelin didn't wait. He attacked. The sound that tore from his throat was pure nightmare, a roar that made the stable walls tremble, that made the horses scream in their stalls. That sent Eamon Richter running out the door. Ronan shifted too, trying to match the threat. A brown wolf, large, muscled, but he was no match, not even close. They collided in the center of the stable like storms crashing together, The impact was brutal. Teeth ripping flesh, claws carving skin, blood flying in red arcs. Ronan went for the throat. Kaelin spun, used his own weight against him, slammed him into the wooden wall. The structure cracked on impact. Ronan tried to scramble away. Kaelin was faster. He caught Ronan's hind leg. Yanked. The crack of bone echoed. Ronan howled. Pain. Desperation. Then Kaelin ended it. He clamped down on Ronan's throat, lifted him off the ground as if he weighed nothing, and squeezed. Ronan struggled, scratching, snapping at air, trying anything. But Kaelin didn't let go. He only tightened. Until something broke with a dry snap. Until Ronan stopped moving. Until the body went limp, hanging from Kaelin's jaws. Then Kaelin released him. Ronan's body hit the ground like a sack of flour. Lifeless, eyes open, staring into nothing. Kaelin stood over him, the wolf panting, covered in blood, his and Ronan's, victorious. Then slowly, he turned his head and looked at Cecily. For a long moment, no one moved, no one breathed. Cecily looked into those golden eyes, and she saw it. Intelligence. Complete recognition. Cecily released Sophia gently. The girl stayed where she was, staring at her brother, Wolf, with wide eyes but no fear. And Cecily stepped forward, then another, and another, until she stood before him, before the enormous wolf, and she reached out her hand. Kaelin, the wolf, lowered his head, cautious, as if afraid to scare her, and pressed his muzzle into her palm. Cecily felt it, the softness of fur beneath the blood, the heat, the faint tremor running through his body. "I'm not afraid of you," she whispered. "King or wolf, man or beast, I never will be." The wolf closed his eyes. A sound rumbled in his throat. Low, almost like a sigh, as if an enormous weight had been lifted. Then the change began. It was slower on the way back, more painful. Bones cracked back into place. Fur retreated beneath skin. Claws shortened. Fangs shrank. And when it was over, Kaelin was kneeling on the ground. Naked. Covered in blood from head to toe. Shaking with exhaustion. Cecily took a cloak from one of the dead guards and draped it over his shoulders. He didn't move. Just stayed there. On his knees. Breathing hard. Then a small, trembling voice cut through the silence. "Kaelin?" "Sophia." Kaelin lifted his head, and when he saw his sister, alive, whole, free, looking at him, he went to her and pulled her into an embrace so tight Cecily feared he might hurt the girl. "Forgive me," he whispered, his voice breaking with sobs. "Forgive me, I failed. I let them take you. I let them hurt you. Stop," Sophia said, touching his face as if to make sure he was real. "Stop. You didn't fail. But You came," she cut in, her own tears falling now. "I knew it. Even when they hit me, when they chained me, I kept saying, 'My brother will come. My brother doesn't give up.' And you came. You always come." Kaelin held her tighter and cried, without shame, without trying to hide it. Tears of relief, of exhaustion, of love. Cecily watched from a distance, her heart tight, her own eyes burning. Then Kaelin looked at her, through tears, through blood, through exhaustion, and she saw it. Fear. Pure, devastating. Fear that she would reject him now for not telling the truth sooner. Cecily stepped forward. "You lied," she said, her voice calm. Kaelin closed his eyes, as if bracing for a blow. "Yes. You hid who you were, what you were." "Yes. Why?" He opened his eyes. The honesty there was brutal. Raw. "Because telling you would have put you in danger. Because if they knew I'd told you, they would have used you against me. Hurt you. Killed you. And I couldn't." His voice broke. I can't lose you too. Cecily held his face between her palms, gentle, firm. You're not going to lose me. Kaelin held his breath. No? No. She leaned in, resting her forehead against his. Because I understand. Protecting your sister came first. Protecting your kingdom came first. Protecting me came first. And if I were in your place, I would have kept the secret too. You're not angry? No. You don't feel betrayed? No. Cecily brushed her thumbs over his cheeks, wiping away tears and blood. I feel honored that you trusted me enough to let me help, even without telling me everything, even risking so much. Kaelin pulled her into an embrace. Sophia squeezed between them, and he cried more, from relief, from gratitude, from something larger than words. Cecily held him, strong, and whispered into his hair, King or beggar, wolf or man, it doesn't matter. And she felt his body finally relax completely in her arms. Eamon Richter was found hiding behind the stable, trying to escape across the fields. Kaelin, dressed now, but still coated in dried blood, captured him personally. 1 punch. 2. 3. Until the man dropped unconscious. The children were freed from their cages. 7 in all. Frightened. Thin. But alive. Then Kaelin did something that made Cecily see him differently. He knelt, in front of each child, one by one. He looked them in the eyes and said, My name is Callan Dravant. I am the Alpha King of this realm, and I promise I will find your families. I will destroy whoever did this to you. You will be safe. Always. And every child, even the smallest, seemed to understand, seemed to believe, because there was truth in those words. Power. A real promise. After that, Kaelin raised his voice. Firm, clear. Does anyone here know where the other outposts are? Where the other captives are being held? Silence for a moment. Then one of the guards, injured, bleeding but conscious, hesitated. Kaelin took a step forward. His eyes still held a trace of gold. Talk, or I'll make you talk. And the guard broke. Fast, desperate. There are 3 outposts. This one to the east, near Thornfield. 1 to the south, on the docks. Exact locations, Kaelin ordered. The guard gave every detail. Village names, markers, distances. Then, almost as an afterthought, he added, There are older prisoners at the eastern outpost, in the dungeons. They use silver collars for wolves who can't pay ransom, who have no value. They keep them there. Years. Make them work until... How many? Cecily cut in, her heart hammering. The guard looked at her. I don't know. 5? 6? I never went down there. How long have they been there? Some for years. The oldest. A decade, maybe more. A decade. Cecily felt her legs go weak. What do they look like? The guard frowned. I don't know details. I never saw them, but I heard one of the oldest has a scar on his face. Dark hair, I think. They say he still fights, even after all that time. Father. The word detonated in her mind. My father is alive. Cecily grabbed Kaelin's arm, too hard, nails biting in. We have to go. Now. To the eastern outpost. My father, he could be there. Kaelin stared at her. Saw the desperate hope in her eyes. We will, he said, firm. But first we send messengers. My guard needs to surround all the outposts at the same time, or they'll kill the prisoners before we arrive. How long? Kaelin considered. We're 5 days' ride from the castle, but with fast messengers, the guard can be mobilized in 3 days. 4 to surround all the outposts. Kaelin held her face. We'll bring him back. Alive. Free. That I promise. It took 2 hours to reach the nearest village. Kaelin entered the inn not as a fugitive, but as a king. He demanded the best room, paper, ink, sealing wax, and he wrote 3 letters, each addressed to Beta Ryden at Drevant Castle. Clear orders, exact locations, instructions to surround the outposts, free the captives, capture those responsible. And one special line in the last letter. At the eastern outpost, there are prisoners in the dungeons. One of them may be Cecily's father, a dark-haired wolf with a scar on his face. Treat him as you would treat me. Bring him back alive. This is a royal order. He sealed the letters with red wax, pressed the ring he wore, Drevant's royal crest, into the hot wax. He paid 3 messengers with the promise of their weight in gold, and watched them leave. Fast, in different directions. Only then did he allow Cecily to tend his wounds. They sat in the room. Sophia was already asleep on the bed, exhausted, but finally safe. Cecily cleaned the cuts on Kaelin's shoulder, on his chest, stitched where she needed to, wrapped him with hands that trembled slightly. She said nothing. She simply worked. When she finished, Kaelin took her hand. "Come with me," he said quietly. "To the kingdom, to Drevant." Cecily looked at him. "Kaelin, I know it's a lot. I know it's fast, but I need you." Cecily waited. "You're mine," he said simply. Not in the sense of possession, but in the sense of belonging, of recognition. Like a part of me found the part that was missing. And I don't know how to explain it better than that. Cecily looked deep into his eyes. "You're a king, and I'm a healer from a forgotten village." "You're everything," he corrected. "And if you accept, I'll spend every day showing you that." Cecily thought. About the empty cabin. About the loneliness. About 11 years of pain and searching. And about the possibility of something different. Something new. Something with him. "I'll stay," she said. And Kaelin pulled her into a kiss. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to hope. The journey back to the kingdom took 5 days. 5 days in which Kaelin no longer hid who he was. He rode at the front, with the posture of someone who commanded armies. He spoke with effortless authority. And when they stopped in villages along the way, people bowed. Not out of fear, out of respect. "My king." The words were whispered with reverence, with gratitude. And Cecily watched, seeing him not as the man she had bought for 1 coin, but as the king he had always been. At night, when they made camp, he came to her, sat beside her, took her hand. "You've been quiet," he said on the 3rd night. "I'm thinking." "About what?" Cecily looked at him, at the blue eyes shining in the firelight. "About everything. About how my life changed in less than a week. About how the person beside me is a king. About how I don't know if I'm ready for what comes next." Kaelin turned to face her fully. "No one is ready," he said, honest. "But you don't have to be. You just have to choose to stay. The rest, we figure out together." Cecily smiled, and he kissed her. There, in front of everyone. No hiding, because she was his. And everyone was meant to know. Drevant Castle appeared on the horizon on the 5th day. Cecily stopped breathing. It wasn't a castle. It was a fortress. Gray stone walls rising to the sky. Towers that reached the clouds. Royal banners, gold with a black wolf, snapping in the wind. He rules all of this. "It's incredible," she murmured. Kaelin looked at her, then at the castle. "It's home, and if you accept, it can be your home too." The gates opened as they approached. Guards bowed, people knelt, and a man came running, tall, dark-haired, sharp-eyed, a strong wolf presence. "My king!" He dropped to his knees before Kaelin. "Thank the gods. You're alive." "Raiden," Kalen said, swinging down from his horse and pulling the man up. "Up. I need a report." Beta Raiden nodded. Then his gaze went to Sophia, and his eyes brightened with tightly held emotion. "Princess," he whispered. "You're safe." Sophia slid down from her horse and hugged him. "I am. Kalen saved me." Raiden looked at Kalen with something close to adoration. As always. Then his eyes moved to Cecily. Studying. Assessing. "And you are—" "Cecily," Kalen said before she could answer. "The woman who saved my life. Who helped me rescue Sophia." Raiden studied her a moment longer, then bowed, respectful. "It's an honor." Cecily nodded, uncomfortable with the formality. "The outposts?" Kalen asked, returning to it. Raiden straightened, businesslike. "Surrounded and taken, all three. Eamon Richter and his men are in the dungeons. The captives have been freed and are being treated." "How many?" 23 in total. Children, teenagers, some adults." "And the prisoners in the dungeons?" Cecily cut in, unable to wait. "At the eastern outpost?" Raiden looked at her. 6 men, wolves, all kept in silver collars for years. They're weak, injured, traumatized, but alive. Cecily's heart slammed. "One of them, dark hair? A scar?" Raiden frowned, searching his memory. "Yes, one of the oldest. A scar cutting across his face. Dark hair threaded with gray. He's in the recovery quarters, next to the medical wing." "I can take you—" "Now," Cecily interrupted. "Please, now." Cecily ran, down stone corridors, following Raiden, with Kalen right behind. The exhaustion didn't matter. The grime of days on the road didn't matter. Nothing mattered except getting there. Please, please let it be him. Raiden stopped before a wooden door. "He's here, but—" He hesitated. "Be prepared. 11 years in a silver collar. Leaves marks, physical and otherwise." Cecily nodded and pushed the door open. The room was simple. Bed, chair, a window with soft light, and a man, back turned. Standing at the window, dark hair grayed at the ends, broad shoulders but far too thin. The posture of someone carrying old pain. Around his neck, even now, there were marks. Silver burns that would never fully heal. Scars that told stories Cecily didn't want to imagine. She stopped, her heart beating so hard it hurt. "Sorry," the man said without turning, his voice rough from disuse. "I don't want company right now." And Cecily knew. That voice. Older. Tired. Broken. But his. "Dad?" she whispered. The man froze, completely still. Then slowly he turned. And Cecily saw. Dark hair now threaded with so much gray. A thinner face etched by years of suffering. A scar cutting from forehead to cheek. New. Deep. Not there before. Permanent shadows under his eyes. Hands trembling slightly. But his eyes. Green. Like hers. Exactly like hers. "Father." "No," he whispered, his voice cracking. "It can't be." "Cecily?" "Yes," she said, tears already falling. It's me, Dad." And he crumpled. He dropped to his knees, hands covering his face, and he cried. Broken sounds, desperate. From someone who had held everything in for far too long. Cecily ran, crossed the room, fell to her knees in front of him, and hugged him. "Dad, you're alive. You're alive." He held her too tightly, desperately, as if afraid she would vanish. "Cecily, my girl, my daughter." He pulled her back, holding her face between trembling hands, studying every feature. "You've grown so much. You're so beautiful. Like your mother." At the mention of her mother, fresh tears slid down his face. Cecily clasped his hands. "Dad, Mom." I know, he said, his voice breaking. I was there, when she fell ill, when the fever took her. He closed his eyes as the old pain returned. You were 7, still so small, and I tried to save her. I used every herb she taught me. But it wasn't enough. Cecily's chest tightened. I remember, she whispered. I remember you beside her bed, you holding her hand. Her telling me I had to be strong. Her father nodded, tears falling. She made you promise that you'd keep learning, that you'd become a healer like her. And I did. Cecily's voice shook. Because of you. You taught me everything she didn't have time to teach. Her father looked at her, startled. You remember? I remember you teaching me herbs. Testing me. Telling me it mattered that I knew. Because it was her legacy. And then I disappeared, he said, guilt flooding his voice. And I left you alone. You didn't leave me, Cecily corrected, firm. You were taken, torn from me. And I spent 11 years searching. I never stopped looking. Her father pulled her into another embrace, tight, desperate. My strong girl, my Cecily. You became everything your mother hoped for. And more. They stayed that way for a long time. Crying. Remembering. Healing. Until a gentle voice came from the door. Cecily? Kaylin. Cecily turned, wiping her tears. Dad, there's someone I want you to meet. Her father looked up and saw Kaylin standing in the doorway. Even exhausted, even broken, wolf instinct still worked. Cecily watched her father recognize it. The stance, the presence, the authority. Alpha. No. More than that. King. Her father tried to stand. Kaylin stepped forward. You don't have to, he said, firm but gentle. Please. Stay. You're... Cecily's father looked at Cecily, then back to Kaylin. You're the Alpha King. I am, Cullen Dravant. He entered the room. And I owe my life to your daughter. Her father blinked, processing. How? And Cecily told him. Everything. The auction, the purchase, the poison, Sophia's rescue, the discovery of the network, the search for the outposts. The days that followed were a blur. Cecily was installed in quarters near Kaylin's. Luxurious, nothing like the cabin. Sophia visited her constantly. They talked, they laughed, they became friends. Cecily's father remained in the recovery quarters. Cecily visited him every day. The trial took place a week after they arrived, in the castle's main hall, enormous, with a vaulted ceiling and stained glass windows that painted the floor in color. The throne sat at the far end, high, imposing, made of black stone and gold, and Kaylin sat upon it. Dressed in formal attire, a black tunic embroidered in gold, a heavy cloak across his shoulders, a crown of gold and obsidian on his head. Sophia stood beside him. Also formally dressed, a princess. And around them, the hall was full, nobles, counselors, guards, the people, and Cecily, seated in a place of honor beside the throne. Eamon Richter was brought in chains, thin, pale, still arrogant. Eamon Richter, Kaylin said, his voice echoing through the hall. You have been charged with trafficking in people, kidnapping, conspiracy, attempted assassination of the heiress princess. How do you plead? Eamon spat on the floor. Not guilty. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Kaylin didn't move. He only looked at Ryden. Present the evidence. And Ryden did. Everything. Letters, witnesses, confessions from the captured guards. When he finished, there was no doubt. Guilty. Kaylin rose, and the hall fell into absolute silence. Eamon Richter. For your crimes against the kingdom, against the people, against innocent children, you are sentenced to death, execution at dawn. Eamon screamed, fought his chains. He was dragged out, and Kaelin sat again. As for the lesser conspirators, he continued, life imprisonment. No possibility of release. And I issue a royal decree. The hunt for every person involved in this network continues until each one is found and judged. Applause thundered through the hall, and Cecily saw it. The king he was. Just. Unforgiving when needed, but just. And she felt it. The weight of what it meant to stand beside him. That night, Kaelin came to her quarters. He knocked, waited for permission. Come in, she said. Kaelin entered and closed the door behind him. We need to talk. Cecily sat on the edge of the bed. Her heart sped up. About what? About us, about the future, about what I want, and what you want. He came closer, but he didn't sit. He remained standing, as if he needed the distance to say what came next. You know you're my mate, he began. You know the bond exists, that I've felt it from the start. I know, but there's more. He drew a deep breath. Being mate to an alpha king, it isn't only romance. It isn't only connection. There are responsibilities, consequences. Cecily waited. If you accept the bond fully, Kaelin went on, through the ceremony, you'll become my Luna, my queen. You'll feel my emotions. I'll feel yours. We'll be connected. Always. Until death. And if I don't accept, pain flashed through his eyes, then you're free to go, live your life, and I'll respect it, and let you leave. Cecily stayed quiet, absorbing it. But you don't want me to go. No, he admitted raw. I want you to stay. I want you to be mine. I want to build a life with you, but only if it's what you want too. And the kingdom? The nobles? Will they accept a commoner as queen? Kaelin hesitated. Then he was honest. Some will question it. Some will resist. His voice dropped, as if each word carried weight. Ryden already warned me there are factions who expected a political marriage. An alliance with another kingdom, another bloodline. Someone suitable in their eyes. Cecily went still, her heart in her throat. And you? Do you need that? Her voice came out almost a whisper. Kaelin inhaled slowly. When he lifted his eyes, there was weariness and truth there. Truth no king usually offered. I need the whole kingdom standing. I need stability. I need Dravant not to become meat for the vultures circling the borders. He paused, jaw tightening. But there is something above the council's will. Cecily frowned. What? Kaelin stepped closer, as if entering sacred ground. The law of the wolves, the law of the moon. His voice lowered, steady. When the moon marks a mate, it isn't choice. It isn't whim. It isn't politics. It's destiny and vow. And no council has the authority to undo it without defying the very order of our people. Cecily swallowed hard. So, they would have to accept it. They would. Kaelin nodded, but his gaze hardened. Accept it. On paper. Before the people. Before the moon. But that doesn't mean they'll stay quiet. Silence grew between them. They'll try. Cecily started. They'll try to bend me. They'll try to diminish you. They'll say you bewitched me, that I weakened, that I dragged a healer into the throne. He gave a short laugh without humor. And when they can't convince me, they'll try to hurt you. A chill ran down Cecily's spine. Kaelin knelt slowly in front of her, as if for a moment he wasn't a king at all, just a man asking permission to love. That's why I'm telling you now. So you choose with your eyes open. He took her hands carefully. If you accept the bond fully, you don't become only my Luna. You become a target. Cecily trembled, but she didn't pull away. And if I don't accept? Pain crossed his face before he could hide it. Then you're free." He spoke with effort, as if each syllable tore something out of him. "I'll respect it. I'll keep you protected. I'll make sure you and your father have safety in a place, but His gaze burned. "I'll carry it for the rest of my life." Cecily drew a shaky breath. Her chest hurt, not from fear, from truth. "Kaelin, I shouldn't love you," he confessed, voice lower. "Because a king doesn't have that luxury. A king chooses for the kingdom. But my wolf chose you before I did. And I tried to resist. I swear I tried." Cecily felt tears sting, but she stood firm. "Do you love me?" she asked, almost voiceless. "Yes." Kaelin didn't hesitate. "Completely." Cecily closed her eyes for a second, as if accepting a storm. "I do too." When she opened them, there was fear and decision. "And it scares me, because it's fast, because it's intense." Kaelin tightened his hold on her hands. "Then stay, accept the bond, accept being my Luna." Cecily stepped forward, and the world seemed to align inside her. "I accept." Her voice broke only a little. "I accept the bond. I accept being your Luna. I accept everything." Kaelin rose as if he'd been holding his breath his whole life. He pulled her into a kiss that wasn't only desire, it was promise. When they parted, he rested his forehead against hers, smiling like someone who had finally found home. "Are you sure?" Cecily let out a trembling laugh through tears. "I'm terrified." She met his gaze, whole. "But I'm certain. Because I love you, and I won't run from what the moon decided." Kaelin inhaled deeply, like a king preparing his own fate. "Then we'll do the ceremony." His voice steadied. "Whenever you want." Cecily wiped her tears with her thumb, as if bracing for war instead of celebration. 1 week, she decided. "I need to prepare." And Kaelin agreed. The ceremony took place 1 week later, in the castle garden, under the stars, small, intimate, only the closest: Sophia, Cecily's father, Ryden, the lesser council, a few selected nobles. Kaelin was dressed formally, black tunic, no crown, only him. And Cecily wore a dress Sophia had chosen, deep blue, simple but beautiful. Ryden led the ceremony. "Kaelin Dravant, Alpha King of Dravant. Do you recognize Cecily as your mate?" "I do," Kaelin said, voice firm. "Do you swear to protect her, honor her, love her, place her above all others except the kingdom, for the rest of your life?" "I swear." Ryden turned to Cecily. "Cecily, do you accept Kaelin as your mate? Do you accept the bond that binds you to him?" Cecily took a deep breath. "I accept." "Do you swear to stand at his side, support him, love him, share his burdens, for the rest of your life?" "I swear." "Do you accept becoming Luna, queen of this kingdom, mother to its people?" Cecily looked around, at Sophia smiling, at her father with tears in his eyes, at Ryden waiting, at Kaelin looking at her with pure love. "I accept." "Then, by the power entrusted to me as Beta, I declare this bond recognized and blessed." Ryden smiled. "You may seal the bond." Kaelin held out his hand. Cecily took it, and something happened, like a wave, warm, powerful, flooding through her whole body. Cecily gasped, feeling everything, his emotions, love, relief, absolute devotion, fear of losing her, hope for the future, pride, happiness, all at once, and he felt hers too. She saw it in his eyes, the way they widened, love, fear, determination, hope, and a deep acceptance. "You feel it," he whispered. "I do." Cecily laughed through tears. "I feel everything." Kaelin pulled her into a kiss, and around them, everyone applauded. Because their king finally had his queen,